Kevin Roggenbuck is Senior Transportation Planner in Ramsey County. Ramsey owns St. Paul Union Depot. They also manage the Great River Rail Commission, which is the cities between La Crosse and the Twin Cities that work on service development through places like Winona and Red Wing. And Kevin was going to join us and give us a brief update on what's going on there.
Hello, Scott, I'm here.
Oh, good. All right. Well, if you can find him, you could spotlight him. And Kevin, do you have any visuals you're going to show us?
No, Scott, I don't have any.
Okay, you don't need to share your
slides to share.
We just need to find you and spotlight you. What is the name that you have on your screen?
It's my full name, Kevin.
Okay, Kevin starts. Yeah. Okay, so it should be after the I's. It's in alphabetical order by.
Oh, okay.
I'm wearing my Union Depot signature hoodie, so you can find me that way too.
All right,
there we are.
You can unspotlight me and just spotlight Kevin if you want to do that. And Kevin, I sort of introduced you, but if you want to tell us about your role and give us an update of what's going on with Ramsey County and the depot.
Great, thank you, Scott. Glad to do that. And you're a tough act to follow. That was a great presentation and a rundown of all the passenger train grants and studies and activities across the Midwest. So that was fantastic. My name is Kevin Roggenbuck. I'm a senior transportation planner with Ramsey County Public Works. I am also involved in intercity passenger rail work in addition to transit planning and other things that happen internally with Ramsey County and the neighboring communities in the Twin Cities area. As Scott mentioned, Ramsey County is the fiscal agent to the Great River Rail Commission. The Great River Rail Commission is essentially an advocacy organization, very similar to the Chippewa-St. Croix Commission that you're meeting right now. We advocate for faster and more frequent passenger train service in the high-speed rail corridor that was identified many years ago between Chicago and St. Paul along the river route. And the Wisconsin communities are part of that, in addition to the Minnesota communities along the river from La Crosse up to St. Paul. A couple of pieces of news, Scott, you shared, and Jen Murray shared some very good news about corridor ID grants and federal grants. I have some just the opposite news to share with you about Union Depot. We had applied for a federal state partnership grant to extend to track 3 at Union Depot. And the reason we did that was to provide a more convenient and more appropriate space for the TCMC second train to overnight at Union Depot. Union Depot is the endpoint. It's the western endpoint of that new service that'll start hopefully very soon. The desire was to have the second train overnight at Union Depot. It's more convenient. That's where the service begins. They could turn the train around at the Westminster Y, back it into the platform and have it ready to go the next day. Refueling, restocking the cafe car, cleaning it out, etc. would be much more convenient. We'd applied for funding through the federal state grant program to extend track 3 and make that position much closer to the depot, much more convenient to work with. We did not receive funding through that program. We had a debrief with the Federal Railroad Administration a little over a week ago and kind of ran down some of the reasons why we weren't successful. And their suggestion was that it might be more appropriate to apply for these funds through a state of good repair grant program. So there are a number of other federal grant programs in addition to Corridor ID. The CRISI grant program that we're familiar with, that secured funding for track and signal and bridge improvements for the second train. And then as you mentioned, some of the other programs there too that are out there and available to organizations to further passenger rail. So we'll take a look at that. We'll see where we go from here. There's been no decision made right now on what to do next regarding track 3 and that extension at Union Depot. We don't need that extension for the second train. We do have room at the tail track space on Union Depot. As Scott mentioned, we own Union Depot. We also own the platform track and the tail track there on our property. So the second train can overnight on the tail track, or could even overnight at the platform if necessary. So we'll accommodate that. But for future trains and all the Corridor ID program trains that were identified here, we need to extend track 3 at some point to provide adequate space to store trains or to have trains be away from the platform as other trains come and go. Another piece of news about Union Depot, and Jen Murray had talked about the TCMC second train and the agreements that are being developed between the states and Amtrak and other things that need to be done in order to get the service started. Ramsey County is in that situation too, where overnighting the train at Union Depot essentially changes our lease and operating agreement that we have with Amtrak. Amtrak has space in Union Depot. They have a clerk there or staff there that help assist people on and off the train, manage train service at that location. We have an agreement to serve the platform track and et cetera, and have storage and other things there. So we're working with Amtrak to update, or modify or amend that agreement, or write a new agreement to accommodate the second train and the overnight service that would be there. And it's important, I think, especially to Eau Claire, to this group, because as you mentioned, Scott, the Eau Claire group is looking at having potential different service providers provide service from Eau Claire into St. Paul. Some of the conditions of the current lease agreement include exclusive use of Union Depot or approval of special trains coming going from the platform track at Union Depot. We'd like to make that as flexible as possible so we can accommodate other service providers, such as the ones you mentioned that could be providing the Eau Claire service. So that's being worked on, and we hope to have that resolved very soon. We've had frequent meetings between our property management people and those at Amtrak. So we're working on that, just as Jen Murray and the other states are working on their agreements with Amtrak. And then finally, as you mentioned, Great River Rail Commission, our 2024 work plan includes promoting the start of service. Once that service is announced, hopefully some good lead time will be provided, a month or more. Great River Rail Commission and Ramsey County and all the station cities that are members of our organization can kind of echo that announcement and share that through our social media outlets and through our local communication channels and things like that to help spread the word more amongst our communities in Minnesota and into La Crosse too, that the service is happening. It's going to start. It's going to be more convenient. You can mix and match train service with other services, even with, as you mentioned, intercity bus service, and make better connections and have more flexibility in how you travel along this corridor. And once the service is up and running, Great River Rail Commission, through its communications consultant, we're working on developing what we call right now anyway, business roundtable groups, where we're connecting with area chambers of commerce, with major employers. And for example, Visit Winona is very big in promoting train and access to Winona. So we can kind of cross promote each other's events with the train service. So Great River Rail Commission can promote the train service and use it as a way to get to Winona for Parents Weekend at Winona State or something like that. And Winona State can say, Parents Weekend is coming up, come down and visit us for the weekend, and you can get there by the train. So we're going to kind of cross promote each other's activities and train service as a way to get there. We'll continue to share updates and things like that through our communication channels, and as I mentioned, through our member station cities, and hopefully make this train service very successful. Because as Derek said, this service can be, if it's successful right out of the gate, it demonstrates the need and the value of passenger train service, not only in the Midwest, but across the whole nation. And we can maintain funding through these federal programs and continue to grow passenger rail service here in our area and throughout the country. And that's the extent of my report, Scott. I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has questions.
Right. Good information, Kevin. Anybody have any questions for Kevin? Yes, there's a question over there, Bill. We'll need the microphone so people online can hear.
Thank you. Do you continue to work on the Westminster Junction problems, bottleneck there, as we have learned about in recent years?
Bill, we're not actively working on resolving any issues with Westminster Junction. Right now, it's eyed as something that can be used to turn the train around. As the train comes in, the second train comes in, it can stop at the depot, back up through the junction, and then back into the depot and get ready for its return trip the next day. BNSF, Burlington Northern, does dispatching in and out of Union Depot, so they'd be involved in that work and doing that. But we aren't actively looking at resolving any kind of track layout issues at Westminster right now.
All right, anybody else? Okay, well, Kevin, we appreciate your joining us. And thanks for
Great.
those updates and thanks for the
Yep.
commitments Ramsey County has made for passenger rail service.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Glad to be here.
Mark, if you can put my slide share up just a second, and then we're going to introduce Dan.
Yeah.
All right, and if you can continue the slideshow, I do have another Back to the Future I need to show people. All right. Anybody recognize this picture? What is it? This is the old Chicago Northwestern Depot. I don't know if you can read it. This is a postcard from the 19-teens that the Chippewa Valley Museum has. Does anybody know what the drumhead on this train says? It says North Coast Limited. And we're going to introduce Dan Bucks here in a second, who will explain a little bit what we mean by that. So you see the dotted lines here that includes our region, and you see there's a dotted line that goes all the way to the Pacific Northwest as well. And that's the Big Sky Rail Authority, which are several counties in Montana along the southern populous route there who have formed this Big Sky Rail Authority. So we're going to bring on Dan Bucks, who's involved in that. He chairs their Development and Strategic Engagement Committee. So you can stop sharing mine, and I think Dan may want to share something too. So if you can unspotlight Kevin and then bring Dan on. We have a lot of people online, so that's a good thing. It takes Mark a few minutes to find somebody. So there we are. So if you can take the spotlight off, you just went, there he is. He's right at the bottom of your list.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yep. And then let's see.
That's strange.
How do you unspotlight somebody? Oh yeah, you're not on Kevin anymore.
No, I'm trying to get him. I can't.
Just click away.
Oh.
There's Kevin. No, there's Kevin, right? Whoop, there we go. Click on that one. Remove spotlight. There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Technology on the fly here. So all of us have probably done those. Now we need to find Dan.
Yeah, you should be up to the top there.
And then I'm going to have you unspotlight me too while Dan's talking if you can, but get Dan first. So he's going to be way at the top.
Yeah.
There he is. And then while we're introducing Dan, you can take the spotlight off me if you don't. So, and I think you did set him up as co-host. So Dan, you're in Montana, long ways from here, but we hope to be able to take a train there one of these days. So tell us, what do you want to share?
Well, thank you, Scott. And indeed, we want you all to be able to take a train from Eau Claire to out to Montana and beyond to the Pacific Coast on the renewal of the passenger service on the old North Coast Hiawatha, and before that, North Coast Limited Service. I want to begin this morning by thanking Scott for his outstanding leadership on passenger rail service in the Midwest and beyond. Those of us at the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority really appreciate the work that you all have been doing at the West Central Wisconsin Rail Commission and our organization. And we especially appreciate Scott's leadership. And we have learned a great deal from him. He's a great communicator. Scott, if they ever run you out of Eau Claire, we want you to come to Montana and be our spokesperson. But I doubt that they're going to do that because you do fantastic work, and we really appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you. We congratulate you on your success with the Corridor ID program. And we join you in celebrating that because the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority was also successful. Mark, I could either share the screen or you could go to, you've got the two slides that I am could just work from right there that Scott already showed. What is your preference, Scott? Because you could put up the Big Sky Rail Authority slide first. You had it right there, or I could bring it up. What is your
If
preference?
you're already spotlighted, so why don't you just go ahead and share?
Okay.
And then if you want to go to one of ours, we can do that.
Okay. All right. So we will. I'll bring up. Is that visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority is a regional rail authority established under Montana law, a law that was passed in 1993 but never used. And our chair, David Strohmeyer, who is a member of the Missoula County Commission, has spearheaded this effort. He is traveling today to Washington, D.C. for rail meetings there. And so that's why I'm filling in, because Dave is really the inspiration and a creative force behind this authority. This authority stretches 700 miles long from North Dakota to Idaho. If you follow the red line, which is the proposed North Coast Hiawatha line, that's 700 and some miles. It's 600 miles if you just take a ruler across, but what counts is the actual travel distance. And the 20 counties are in dark green. We're a contiguous organization across that whole length. We also have as ex officio members the State Department of Transportation, BNS Railway, and 3 tribal nations, and they are critical to our work and our continued progress. It's the Northern Cheyenne and the Crow in south central, southeastern Montana, and then up in the Flathead Reservation in the northwest, up with Sanders Lake, and you see Flathead. The crosshatched area is the Flathead Reservation of the Salish and Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribe there that is extremely active in this, and they're very interested in rail development. They have had the federal government return the National Bison Range to its rightful owners, the tribe, and in the southern part of that reservation is the Bison Range. It is a tremendous national resource, and they are now managing and operating that particular facility. But anyway, that's the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. We are just a little over 3 years old, and quite frankly, we've done, I think, reasonably well in that period of time. By the way, the blue line is, of course, the Empire Builder line. And if at the close of my remarks, I want to have a comment. We are doing work on a project in this area in northeastern Montana to help improve the on-time service of the Empire Builder, or to improve its schedule reliability. And I'll note that at the close of this of these remarks. I would like to now introduce our rail proposal. Excuse me, I lost my screen here. What did I do with that? Here it is. Do we have that selected and on the screen or not?
We're not seeing it, so we
Okay.
need to share again.
Let me return here just a moment and see if I did something here to turn off. If
You might need to screen share again.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
there it is.
There you are.
Okay. We were I can't get rid of this bar across the top here, I guess. Okay. This is we were selected for our proposal for renewing service on what is referred to as the North Coast Hiawatha route. We were selected for developing this route. It is the only one, it's the only long distance line selected in the initial 69 corridors under the Corridor ID program. And it, of course, runs from Chicago through Wisconsin among multiple alternate routes and across southern North Dakota, southern Montana, and eventually to Seattle or Portland. This area is rather undefined. The FRA wrote just put a straight line there. There are 3 route options: the Empire Builder option, a route through central Washington, coming into Seattle from the south, and a route to Portland that we all hope will be under consideration and development. I'm going to move to a slide. This was from our corridor ID application. It shows some of these alternative routings. It includes Eau Claire, your service line in one of the options. The only reason that the other line, that's the existing Empire Builder line, is because that's existing service, a passenger service line that's shown in a solid line. But the dotted line is not a secondary route. It's as far as we're concerned, equal consideration will be given to all of the routes through a participatory process. A route through Madison, we have 2 options, Butte and Helena in.
So Dan, we're not actually seeing the one I think you're showing us.
Okay,
might
I'm
need
sorry.
to-
Well, then I'm gonna just stop addressing that. We have various options that are available along the route. There are various route options beyond just the main route, and so I'm just gonna try not to describe any of the detail, but we'll just leave this up here. There is a route option for Butte and Helena here. There's another in the Flathead Reservation area for 2 route options, and there are 3 options, as I described earlier, out here. Let me just go to, we'll stop sharing here the screen, and I'm going to just go to discussing some of the characteristics of the route that we think will be important. Number 1, our proposal is not for your grandfather's long distance service. Our proposal is for a twice daily frequency service in each direction, not once daily, but twice daily in each direction. It is for on-time service, and it is for weather resilient service. Rail is more weather resilient than the other forms of transportation now, but we want it to be truly weather resilient and virtually run in almost all conditions across this northern route. Those are the major quality characteristics. We believe that if this route ran twice daily in each direction and on time, it would become a model for fare recovery and effectiveness in service and maximizing benefits as compared to costs. We think it would more than triple the ridership running twice daily in each direction if it were also on time and weather resilient. And those are important criteria to keep in mind. Now, we have, as I've noted, several route options that will be considered in the development of this route. And incidentally, one of the other things we want to do is we want to change the name. And so stay tuned. We're going to, the name North Coast Hiawatha really does not resonate with people along most of the route, current residents and citizens. And so we hope to have a more meaningful route name, and we're going to hopefully have yet this year a renaming process, a renaming contest for this route. But to work on the details of this route, and we cannot plan this route from Montana, and we have no illusions of that. We will, our vision is to create an intergovernmental consultation council across the entire route. And it would be comprised of states, regional folks such as yourself, the local governments, metropolitan planning organizations, and associations of regional associations of governments, local governments, and tribal governments. And tribes are an important part of the service model for this particular route. There are over 24 tribal communities across the length of this 2,200 to 2,300 mile route. And they're going to be important partners in developing and benefiting from this particular service. So we are in all levels of government will be represented on this Intergovernmental Consultation Council. Within each state, we will ask the states, and the leadership will typically come from the Departments of Transportation, but we'll have the broad participation that I have outlined here. We will ask each state to take the lead in evaluating route options. Now, we're hoping also that twice daily service means that the route may run on more, that the line may run on more than one route within a state. For example, in Montana, we have we consider it a possibility that both Butte, Montana, and Helena, Montana, might be served with service by twice daily, with one frequency going through Helena and the other frequency going through Butte, with a strong shuttle service in between to provide twice daily service to both communities through that mechanism. And those are just, for example, some of the options that we would see being considered under the Corridor ID program for the development of the route. This route is also being considered in the long distance study, and as the only long distance route selected in the Corridor ID program, we would be very surprised if this route were not included in the long distance study, because it makes no sense to recommend it selected in the Corridor ID program and not recommended in the long distance study. That was the language for the long distance study, incidentally, is something that our authority originally drafted, and thanks to Senator Tester from Montana and Senator Wicker from Mississippi, that language made it into the bipartisan infrastructure law. Last note I want to make is that we understand very much that in the Midwest, people get frustrated when something like the Empire Builder is not on time. We get frustrated with it out here as well. We would invite your broad consideration of measures for improving long distance service, such as the Empire Builder, and working together on that. We have started on that. We are a partner with Amtrak in the Malta, Montana proposal, which was also selected in December for Fed-State partnership funding to address the bottlenecks on the Empire Builder line or one of the key bottlenecks in northeastern Montana. We were also an early supporter of improving the Salmon Bay Bridge in Seattle, just north of the Seattle station. That is also another Empire Builder bottleneck. And in the secret sauce of twice daily service, we think that there's ways that we can improve both the Empire Builder and this the proposed North Coast Hiawatha line, so as to maximize equipment and personnel necessary to accomplish on-time service for everyone. And that is a top priority, along with twice daily frequency, which we think ought to be the new model for long distance service throughout America. Scott, I think I've taken enough time. I'd be glad to answer questions. And again, I congratulate all of you on your great work, your success, and your great leadership.
Thanks, Dan. A very valuable and interesting presentation, so we appreciate that. Anybody have any questions for Dan? While we're looking, I did want to mention, it's interesting how the connections when you make these with peer cities and other organizations, even to other things. So Missoula, where Dave Strohmeyer is from, is a similar size city of Eau Claire and has a state university. And we found out that they've done some interesting work on zoning and combining transportation with zoning. And we actually, through Dave's connection, we had a housing workshop in Eau Claire, and we had a couple planners from Missoula come in remotely and talk about housing. So even other topics, we're finding these to be valuable. So Dan, Ann, you have a question.
Yes, Dan, thank you for joining us today. I just wanted to do a little advocacy here, and I know it's probably seems a little bit early to start talking about amenities on that train. We know Wi-Fi service is important and dining services are important on these sorts of rail lines. But it's never too early to get added to the list. And I just wanted to say that there are at least a few people in this room and a number of others that I know that are involved in our organizations that would certainly advocate for ski racks and good, safe ski storage on that route. So I just wanted to make sure that's on your list.
And I think it ought to be certainly high up on the list of amenities, along with being an active line for bicycle tourism. We need to. There is an excellent program that Amtrak has for bicycle tourists to get their bikes on and off certain lines. We want the bicycles, and we want this, and we want the skis to get on and off the line and work well for everyone. And so those are, I agree with your suggestion. That's a good idea.
And there is a comment in the chat from Bill Draves about, I guess he's saying sometime in the future, we'd like to hear more about the weatherizing and making sure that it's reliable in bad weather. So unless you have any further comments, you just know that that's an issue that needs to be dealt with.
Well, it is possible. I have ridden the Empire Builder when it went through some of the worst weather that we've had in recent winters, and I have ridden it when it's been stopped by weather. And the answer is really just careful attention to infrastructure, adequate reserve equipment, and adequate personnel staffing across vast areas. If we had our long distance lines running at twice daily service, for example, you can then justify having reserve train sets on the Pacific coast so that the return trips can be started on time, even if the original outbound trip is delayed, for example, and so that you don't have to wait for the late train to get out to Seattle and Portland and then turn around even later to get back. But you can't justify that with one-time daily frequencies, but you can justify that with 2 times daily frequency. That's just a quick example. And the bottlenecks, none of this is hard, really hard. It costs some money, yes, but the bottlenecks that exist along the rail line in terms of infrastructure are actually known, and we can fix those. And we invite, we certainly believe that higher frequencies in the Midwest are justified, but there's no reason that the lines that come into St. Paul should be late and should cause frustration for passengers and disrupt their schedules. This can all be done. And I just wanted to give you a few examples, quick examples.
Right, terrific. Well, Dan, we appreciate your joining us, and best wishes on your. Go ahead.
We look forward to continuing to meet with you, work with you, Scott, and work with the people of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and all of you there throughout the state who look forward to a modern and effective passenger rail system for everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We are going to take a short break now. We'll probably do about 10 minutes. So we'll start at 10:30 sharp. For those of you online, you can go get yourself a cup of coffee or something, but we do have some refreshments here in the room for anybody who is here in person. And we'll have Derek James from Amtrak after our break. Thanks.